Hello crafty friends, this is the Papered Chef here. In today's Brother ScanNCut tips and tricks tutorial, I'm going to show you how to cut out and layer stamped images. The stamped image we'll be using is this mermaid from the Pirates and Mermaids stamp set by Stampin' Up. It's part of our new annual catalog which launched on May 4th, 2021, in case you're watching it later. So it's at least around for a year. Super adorable, and I like whimsical things, so this caught my eye. All right, so let's open it up now. I already have this stamp mounted, but I want to show you because, you know, I have some newbies and I like to always include extra tips and tricks. I'm going to show you how I got from here, from this stamp set to here, to the stamping block. Okay, without taking this one off the block because it already has some ink on it, I'm just going to go ahead and mount the pirate, even though we're not, well, we can cut out a pirate, but that's not a problem. But I mean, the projects I'm going to show you, if you're new to my channel, then I always show you projects at the end of the video. We can go ahead and cut out a pirate and mermaids, but we're not going to actually do anything with the pirate right now. Arg. We'll just say arg. Okay, meaning the projects I'm going to show you feature the mermaid. Okay, but same process, right? So I'm going to take off the sticker. So you leave the sticker in your, this is the sticker sheet that comes with each stamp set. Now, technically, you don't even have to even do this. You could actually take off this and just slap this right onto a stamping block and use it. Because before they came up with this concept of cling stamp and this great material that's reusable and everything, before that, right? Before this material became so awesome, this cling stamp material, I was just doing this and it'll stick just fine. Okay, so you don't even need to use your sticker, technically, right? And when I have a big background stamp, I don't even use my stickers. Like I just got a big candy cane stamp set from when I was in Hawaii, like on the Stampin' Up incentive trip, and I probably won't even put a sticker on the back of it because it's this big. But when you have these little ones, it's good to put the sticker on to know which way is right side up and upside down. So go ahead, let's mount the pirate. Let's put the pirate on there. Okay, I just like to do it with my hands, but I mean, if you want to be more precise, some people use, you know, the stamping block and they put the sticker on the stamping block first and then they put this on it, but I just use my hands. I mean, it works for me, right? So whatever works for you. There's no right or wrong way. I mean, there probably is, but it doesn't matter, right? We're crafters. See? And that's how I do it. Now we can slap it on the stamping block, and the first time you use it, you're going to need some extra ink on it. And you also want to do a little test on some paper. So that's how you mount your stamps. We'll do one pirate for good measure, but I'll do 2 mermaids because I want to make sure I really get the mermaid, right? And I was so happy to use my ScanNCut again because I had this project rolling around in my head for ages now. Like since I got the catalog, I'm like, oh, I want to work with this because this is going to be like one of my favorites, if not my favorite. But of course, I say that about the turtle too, because the turtle's whimsical. I say that about the little peekaboo farm because that's whimsical. All right, so I'm going to take a piece of basic white cardstock, the regular kind, not the thick kind. Actually, like I said, though, the first time you use a stamp, you want to get a piece of, this is scrap because I was just doing some scanning, cutting, position adjustment on it. You want to actually stamp onto a piece of either scrap paper or something else first because, right, it's not going to ink up great the first time. So because the stamp is so big, I'm going to go ahead and ink it up, right, like upside down. See how I'm not getting it all yet? Because it just has to absorb the ink the first time. The next few times you use it, it's like conditioned, and it will not do that. You'll get enough ink on it, so it's not a problem. I do see some of you coming in, and I'm gonna say hello to you in just a minute, but I don't want to interrupt the flow. I got some flow going on with the stamping. It's working, so I don't want to interrupt the flow. Plus, I get annoyed when I'm watching videos and all they do is say hi to people and they don't teach you anything. I'm like, oh my goodness, when are you going to show me something? Stop saying hi to people. Anyway, I do love to say hi to people, but I don't want them to do it for like the first 15 minutes of a video, if you catch my drift. All right, let's fix that a little bit. I think I got it. There's a little bit of the cap, but I'm going to go with it. I think that's all right. That's all good coverage. Good coverage enough to cut it out. I may have to use the pencil trick on the pirate. You're getting to see me use the pirate for the first time, so if I have to troubleshoot and use the pencil trick, then I will use the pencil trick. If you don't know what that is, I cover it in a lot of my videos, and I'll try to cover it if I need to. I just have to see if there's any gaps in this pirate. All right, so we're going to do one pirate. Good. Did you get to see me stamp that? I hope you did. One pirate, and we'll do a couple mermaids. So it came out perfectly. Now let's take, and I don't need to do this one on a scrap piece of paper first, this mermaid, because this mermaid I've been using. And once it looks like that, it means that it's been conditioned and I used it. You can wash it later and it'll still sort of work the next time. But it, you know, each time I use it for the first time that day, like since I've been using this one a lot, this mermaid, I don't need to test it on a piece of paper first. Just the first time you use something that day, then you want to make sure you ink it up real good and test it on a piece of paper. Not that you can't test it on your actual paper. See how crisp that is? But it's just that when you test it on a scrap piece of paper first, you're not wasting your nice basic white cardstock. Okay, we're going to do 2 for good measure because they came out perfect. I have a 100% success rate. 100%, meaning every one I've scanned and cut of this mermaid so far has come out perfectly. So I only need to do 2 just in case, because I never say never, right? I'm using Memento black ink. I'm using the stamping E block, but you don't need the E block. You would have fit the D, everything should fit on a D block. D block sounds like I'm in prison. D block, right? All right, so there, D block. Everything should fit on a D block. And this was the E block. So if you have an E block, then it fits even more. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to scan it and we're going to cut it. And I said in the title of this video that I'm going to show you how to layer stamped images. I also do other tips and tricks in my videos, such as we're going to troubleshoot this if we need to. Like we can use the pencil trick to enclose his little beard if it doesn't get enclosed, right? We're going to use the pencil trick. We'll do troubleshooting if we need to. I will show you how to color these stamped images using the Stampin' Blends markers. Okay. I guess that one's a little bit dark. We'll color that one. This one's still good and everything, but the leaves on the ear became a little bit dark. Okay, I'm going to show you how my projects at the end of this video and what I create with this. And I can just tell you what I just got done doing with my ScanNCut, which is aligning it, which is for another tutorial. I have several tutorials on aligning it. All right, so as I pull this machine closer and tilt my camera, got the water bottle there. What am I going to knock over when I do this? And I also have a follow-up video I think I'm going to do next, because I got to show you how to make these cool mermaid backgrounds that I use for my cards too, using the blends, but that's for another story, another tutorial. So let's pull this closer and let me tilt this and let me see who's come on so I can say hi to you guys. Okay. Hello, Yvonne. Diane, thank you for welcoming me back. Hello, Deborah. Hello, Linda. Deborah, I'm glad you like these great stamp sets. And hello, Anike. All right, cool. Thank you for joining me live. I sometimes do these live. Ever since my tripod became sort of stable. Not stable. It's kind of, I would say unstable, but I'm trying to take a positive attitude about it. Ever since my husband, I have a couple tripods, but since my husband taped this one, and I can't move it that much anyway, I just kind of go live since I can't do much movement anyway. And it seems to be working. All right, so what I got done doing, though, this is about the most I can tilt the camera. I'm going to turn off this overhead light for a second. Okay, so what I did is I had just got done lining my mermaid. And I mean my ScanNCut. I did a scanning, cutting, position adjustment. It's one of the settings. And I just got done doing it. And sure enough, my mermaids, they didn't cut out evenly on the right side and left side. This is when it's not aligned. I should have an equal amount of white space on the right side of this mermaid and on the left side, right? So the problem is, so it worked fine, and then I had like loaded the paper. I did the scanning, cutting, position adjustment. And then, of course, lo and behold, the machine turned off after I walked away or took a nap or whatever I did. Then it stopped aligning, so I aligned it again. So, okay, so let me just, I'm going to load the paper, but that's what happens when you do that scanning, cutting, position adjustment is it makes 2 crosshairs. You take a piece of 12 by 12 paper. It makes the crosshairs. It aligns it. And then you say yes. And then you think it's aligned, and hopefully it is. But I'm not unloading the paper after I do that. Okay, I just wanted to show you that I took the white paper off that I just aligned. Now I'm putting my basic white paper on there. Now it should be dry now, but you still want to rub on the other parts. Okay, I'm putting that on my mat now. I'm not removing the mat because if I do, I have this crazy alignment issue going on. Now you're going to say, oh, it doesn't happen to my machine, yada, 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 yada. It doesn't matter if it doesn't happen to your machine. Every machine has a unique personality. And as you know, I have a love-hate relationship with this SDX machine, if you've been watching my channel, and mine does funny things. Yours might never, ever need to be aligned. You might have been using it for 5 years and all your stamped images cut out perfectly, and that's great. But I have to do this, like, I don't know, at least every other day, it seems like lately. I have to use the scanning, cutting, position adjustment. But once I get it, it's beautiful. And boy, it sure beats cutting out these images on your own. All right, so let's go start at the beginning. We've loaded the mat. We're going to go here. We've loaded the mat. Okay, I've turned off my overhead light. Don't keep your overhead lights on when you're scanning stamped images, because the overhead lights are, you can keep the overhead light on, I should say. Keep the ceiling light on. Don't keep the side light on. Don't keep this, like I have a video light. Don't keep a video light on, or don't keep a side light on. It's called an OTT light, OTT. Got it from Joanne Fabric Store. Okay, so I got it with one of my coupons, and I love it. It helps me see better when I'm crafting, but it does mess up my scanning. All right, here we're starting at the very beginning. If you're new to the scan and cut, you've stamped your stamped images. It doesn't matter if they're stamped images, patterned paper, or a drawing you took and doodled with a Sharpie marker, or any black marker, or any pencil. It doesn't matter if it's your doodle, your pattern paper, or your stamped images. You're going to cut them out this way. You're going to see pattern and scan. You're going to go to scan. You're going to choose direct cut, because we're directly cutting these out. If I was trying to get the inside of something, maybe I would use that one, but it's not worth the trouble. This is a lot of trouble, and we do it in other tutorials, but this is like the easiest way. Direct cut. We want to do direct cut. It's asking where we want to store the information. We're going to store the information on the machine temporarily. This is if you want to store it in Canvas Workspace. That's the online version. What I love about this machine is I don't need to connect to Canvas Workspace for any of this to work. Unlike other brands of machine, you got to be connected and tethered all the time to the software. I just like this scan and cut because I can just turn it on and use it without. And I love computers, don't get me wrong. I love technology and I love connecting to the software. But I love that I can do this without connecting to the software. So now we're gonna scan in the 12 by 6. Scan area is 12 by 6. Now you could scan in 12 by 12, right? But we don't, there's just 2 mermaids and a pirate. We can fit it all in the 6 by 6, the upper half of the mat. So we're going to use 12 by 6 scanning, and we're going to use black and white recognition mode because there's well-defined lines on the stamp set. We're going to click start. Okay, I know the mermaids are going to cut out. I'm pretty confident about that. But I'm wondering about the pirate without using this. There is a couple little gaps. So you know, we always just test it first before using the pencil trick if we need to. Before using a pencil on a scanned image, you would definitely want to just check first and see if it works. So we're going to see if it works by clicking OK. And see, it might not look like it worked. It might not look like it. It might look like it needs the pencil trick. But as soon as I add that outline distance, maybe it'll fix those little inner parts that... Okay, what I mean is this. I need to just kind of go back to basics sometimes so you know what I'm talking about. There are little gaps in his beard. That makes the scan and cut go in and recognize things in his face, like his nose, and it makes it go in and try to recognize his little buckle. You don't want it to do that. You want to enclose. I could have put a pencil mark all around this beard and not let the scan and cut go in there and get inside these gaps, maybe the gap in his shoulder. However, just by adding an outline distance sometimes, then that sometimes clears up that little problem. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to explain. So now, first of all, let's concentrate on the mermaids. Well, let's concentrate on all 3 for a second. To get rid of the unwanted bits, it's going to try to cut all this dirt all over my mat. It's going to try to cut all that. To get rid of the unwanted bits, you can make a selection with your stylus here, make a selection as to what you want to cut. Okay, so that's one way to get rid of the unwanted bits. Another way to get rid of the unwanted bits is to say ignore object size. Okay, it even gets rid of some things in the middle that got scanned in. But it doesn't matter. We're going to do another way. And the third way is to edit out. You can use the trash can and edit out in the next step. You could, or one step after that, you could go into the edit and you can trash the parts you don't want. Okay, but let's first see if using the outline distance will fix the pirate. And it didn't fix the pirate all the way. So we definitely need to use the pencil trick. Okay, here's how I know it's not fixed. There were still some little parts selected. So what I want to do is just worry about the mermaids right now. We're going to go in and get the mermaids and forget about the pirate. because we need to use the pencil, and that's another camera angle, and we don't want to change. We don't want to make my crafty friends dizzy, do we, right? So we're going to go like this and select just the mermaids. Ignore object size. We still, yep, it's still ignored. And it's still, might have to do the outline distance again. Yeah, every time you go back and forward, you have to do that outline distance again of 0.04. Okay, we're going to click OK. Okay. And we're going to click OK, and we're going to do something with we're going to cut these out. We're going to do what's called a layer after that. So keep in mind that we just did a 0.04 outline distance. And we're going to say cut, and we're going to cut these out, just the mermaids. We're going to say start. It says it takes a minute, but it really doesn't take a minute because it just estimates up to the nearest minute. And so it goes in 1 minute increments. So it should probably only take, maybe 30 seconds. So I have time to say hi to some newbies that have come in. Not newbies to my channel, just newbies to came in this video. So hello, Carol. Hello, Julia from the UK, and Terry. Okay, still not cutting perfectly equidistant around the outside, but pretty darn good, better than my example. Okay, so let me show you that, and we'll get to the pirate in a minute. We're not going to do the pirate right now. We're going to do the pirate in a minute, but what I want to show you is this. I want to show you compared to before I did a scanning, cutting, position adjustment. And by the way, you can do several of those in a row, and you'll have no problem, doing this. So we're going to get back to Mr. Pirate, but after we do a pencil with him, we'll do something with him in a minute. But what I want to show you is this. Oh no, they came out pretty good. I'm happy with how they came out. So here's my little mermaids. We're going to take, oh, Little Mermaid licked me. Oh no, it came out pretty good. But here's what I started with. Here's the one that didn't have good alignment. See? There was more white space on that side than that side. I think the white space is pretty darn good now. Maybe not as good as the examples I'm going to show you with the cards I made, but pretty darn good. Actually, this was pretty good, now come to think of it. Even my messed up ones, I'm still going to use them. I always have a bucket of crafty goodness with all my little pieces in it, and I'm still using those. But this is much better after doing that scanning, cutting, position adjustment. Now, before I take this off, I need to give you the visual of what I'm doing next. We're going to layer these stamped images because that's part of this tutorial, and I really think they need some black behind them, just to make them really kind of pop. And before I take this off the mat, you want to make sure, right, that when you put this is a piece of black, just scraps I have, right, black cardstock. Before you put this down, you want to make sure you're putting it in the place you just got done removing the mermaids from. Comprende, I hope that makes sense. Comprendo, I don't speak Spanish. I don't know if I did I don't know if I said that right. But anyway, I hope you understand what I'm saying. Put that right there. Put it somewhere where you just got done taking the mermaids off of. Okay? So we already cut out the mermaids, now we're cutting a layer. This was 0.04 outline distance. For good measure, always add your little bit of, well, you don't have to add your painter's tape, but that's me. My mat's kind of sticky, but I'm still adding a little bit of painter's tape. Okay, so it doesn't matter where you put this black, as long as it's covering. There's where my two mermaids came from. Okay, now let's do the mermaids layer. Let's do that. I'm going to pull this back. Turn off that. Oh, no, you don't need to turn off the light again. I don't need to actually turn off the light because I'm not doing any scanning. Scanning's only if you only need to turn off the light if you're actually scanning. So it says finish cutting. Very important. Don't erase the screen. Don't move anything off the mat, right? I mean, don't erase this, right? Very important as you're going back just one step. Okay, before you're wondering if you have if you're wondering, you should say, if you have a CM350, a ScanNCut 2, or any CM model, this works the same way. So in case you're wondering. So what I did is I went back one step, and I'm going to go point at 0.08 outline distance. Okay, it works the same exact way. You can cut cardstock and designer series paper. I'll put the settings for that machine as far as your blade depth, but I don't need to set the blade depth because I have an SDX machine. But everything I'm showing you works in any model of ScanNCut. So what I'm doing is now I'm putting a bigger layer of 0.08. Okay, and I probably shouldn't have stamped them so close together because you can see they're almost touching. And then you could get twinsies, which is fine, right, to get twinsies. But you should stamp them far enough apart so that when you create that outline distance, they don't meld together and make one big cutout, which then you have to snip with paper snips because that kind of defeats the whole purpose, right? So make sure you stamp them far enough away so that when you keep adding these outline distances, that works. So I'm putting 0.08 outline distance. We're going to say okay. We're going to click okay, and we're going to click cut. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut these, right, and with that on the black cardstock. I have a habit of doing this. Don't get your finger under the blade, right? I just have a habit of rubbing my paper so it doesn't come up. And even if it's taped, because even that part's not taped, right? See how it's an auto blade? There's no blade depth on it. Hello, Amanda. You're a newbie to the ScanNCut or a newbie to my channel. Hope you subscribe. Hey, Catherine, that's great. You just got your SDX 125 today. So in case you've been around on my channel for 5 years and you're like wondering, why do you still keep showing stamped images? Because people keep getting new ScanNCuts, and my newbies still have to keep learning how to do it, right? Oh, I love that it didn't touch. Look at that. They didn't touch. I thought they looked on the screen like they were touching. If they would have touched, they'd have been twinsies, and I would have just had to cut it with scissors. So is that cool or what? And then you rinse and repeat. If you want to make another layer, you just make a layer of 0.12 at that point. So like here's our cute little mermaids. Is that fantastic or what? Look how they pop when you layer them. Look at that dimension it adds. Of course you're going to add your foam behind them. You don't just and you're going to color them and stuff like that too. You don't even have to color them. They're so cute. Okay, so that's what layering stamped images means. You can layer pattern paper. You can layer your doodles. You can actually add a piece of gold behind this, right? And all kinds of stuff. And then you add some dimension. Now, let's get back to Mr. Pirate. Let's get back to Mr. Pirate and talk about the pencil trick, because I just got done mounting him, and we're going to put him right back here, and we're going to just fix him. And I think I could fix it with just very little effort with a pencil. So we're going to reach over. And by the way, you're going to erase it with I have my friend's electronic eraser, but you can, any white eraser, you want to erase the pencil marks later. But I sometimes just use a big eraser. So what I'm doing now is I'm looking for a pencil, which you have to keep handy if you're a ScanNCut user. So any number 2 pencil will do, and you want to enclose the gaps, okay? If you're from the UK, and you always go on the tube and it says mind the gap. That's what you're doing. Mind the gap. That's how I remember this all the time. I have a shirt that says mind the gap from when I went to London. See how I just closed in the gaps? That should do the trick. Maybe there's one more gap. Oh, no, the beard too. Oh, no, but I think I got the beard. This beard I got. Okay, so do you see what I mean? This beard I caught because I by closing this gap, I closed this whole beard. However, it's open on the other side. So that scan's going to scan in there in that gap. So we have to close the gap. Right here and right here. There can't be any white spaces. Okay, his peg leg is cool. His boot's cool. His sword. All right, that's it. You saw me. I just mounted the stamp. First time I'm ever using it. So you can be confident that this works for you the first time you use a stamp set. And what I'm showing you now is how to use any stamp set. So if you don't have Pirates and Mermaids, I don't think any of my customers bought this yet. I don't know why, but I don't think any of mine bought it yet. So even if it doesn't matter what you have, use any stamp set you have, and you can do what I'm teaching you. So what I'm going to do is scan this in now, and we're going to follow the same procedure as before. So we're finished cutting. Click OK. Now I got to turn off the light. Remember? Turn off the light because I'm scanning. You don't have to turn it off when you're layering, but just scanning. Go back or click home. Okay. Pattern and scan. We want scan. Direct cut. We want direct cut. Save it to our machine. 12:6 recognition. Black and white recognition. 12:6 scanning area. Black and white recognition mode. So now I'd like to talk to you about why I color after I cut. Okay. I want to talk about, everybody keeps, well, if you would have just colored him, or not this one in particular, but sometimes I do this and people say, well, if you would have just colored it, you wouldn't need the pencil trick. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, which is fine. And if you want to color before you scan, that is fine. But a lot of times, the main reason I don't color before I cut is because not all stamped images get recognized and cut easily. And if you got done coloring, you could have just wasted a lot of time And then if your cut is crooked, see, right now I'm doing what I did before. I'm making a selection here. And I just want the pirate, right? And it looks like my pencil trick worked without even adding the outline distance. Look at that. See, the pencil trick worked. No little guy, no little belt being scanned in and all that goodness, right? But when we add the outline distance, we can ignore object size too for that little bit up there. But when we add that outline distance, what I'm doing is ignoring these little flyaway black marks. But it worked without me even adding the outline distance. But usually the outline distance is even more forgiving. See? So now the outline distance gets rid of any extra little bits around the side. We're going to put a 0.04 outline distance. Okay? Hey, Polly, I'm glad you got your picture. I'm glad you got my shares, Polly. That's awesome. And hello, Polly. And Amanda said she's new to the ScanNCut. And hello, Polly got her box of paper shares she's talking about. I'm still doing paper shares till the end of the month, and she probably posted them in my VIP group, but I haven't seen them yet. Thank you. All right, what I'm doing is I'm going to click Start, and I'm going to cut out Mr. Pirate with a 0.04 outline distance. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut out Mr. Pirate with that little extra layer for good measure for reinforcement. And then, by my next video tutorial, when I show how to make these backgrounds, I will have Mr. Pirate. I will have a sample of something I make with them. I can do it like an ARG. Good day, matey, or ahoy, matey. It's good. Here, I could do this setting. I can do this sentiment with the, see? Ahoy there, matey. So I could do something with that. But right now, I've only done something with the little mermaids. All right, so it says finish cutting. Okay. Good deal. I could turn on the light now. Okay, we're going to click OK. Now what we want to do is just leave the camera there for a second while I show you this. And I'll show you about the couple things. So we're going to pull this off, right? This is the basic cardstock, basic white. And this is the thin one, not the thick one, because I use the thin one for card bases and stamped images, but I use the thick basic white when I'm making card bases. This is the thin one where you get 40 in a pack. All right, so what I want to do now is take this piece, right? Remember I cut out the mermaids earlier? And I want to put this piece of black cardstock right there. Let's just do this. It's sometimes easier just to do this because I don't have a whole lot of cardstock, right? So watch what I'm doing. I'm making sure that Mr. Pirate I'm putting the black cardstock there before I take Mr. Pirate off so that I know the cardstock's in the right spot. Take it off with your spatula. Okay? See? I want to make sure that the black is in the right spot so when I do the little layering. Oh! Sorry for screaming. I always like to sing when something comes out so perfect. Like, talk about perfection. I mean, this machine is so great. I missed you, and thank you for being good during my tutorial. I should name this guy. I should name this one. She probably heard me talking about her, and then she's like, I'm going to perform better this time. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back. So we just cut out with the 0.04 outline distance. We're going to go back, and we're going to make it 0.08, and we're going to cut it in black cardstock. Click OK, click OK, and cut. Again, don't worry about your lighting because you're not scanning again. Oops, I better move that. I almost left him in there. He must got sucked into the machine. But you're not scanning again, so you don't need to worry about the whole, worrying about the light. That's what I was trying to say. And right now it's just cutting out a little outline on black cardstock, and then we're done, and I can actually unload and make some room on my table. Oh, I was cutting it close. Okay, so there we go. We're going to click OK here. Let me done with this part, so that way I don't have to go back to this machine. We say OK, we click back home or whatever. It doesn't matter. We delete all patterns. We unload the mat. Okay? Now, that's all we had to do. So I'm going to move this machine way out of the way so I can do some coloring with y'all. And see how I was cutting it close there? I put that, but it looks good. That's my little, I love him. He's so cute. Now I get to do a project with him because I hadn't mounted him yet. So I was like, I was worried about not worried. I was doing something with the mermaids first. Oh, that's nice. That is nice. Okay, so that's it. So now we got these two. And if your machine is not like always consistent, say, like what I mean is always consistent. Like say these didn't cut out exactly the same, then you might want to match up your backgrounds with your foregrounds. So like say, let's see. One of these is a little bit chopped on the bottom. See, that's the right mermaid to go with that because her tail's pointed a little more. Does that make sense? You want to match the right background. This when you layer your stamped images, right? Match that background with this background. This one is the right one because look, see how the tail is a little bit stumped at the bottom? There we go. See, that's why I want to match that with that. Now, I'm going to tilt my camera and tell you about a couple more things. I want to tell you about the auto blade, the other reasons I don't color before I cut, and all the things that are in my mind to remember to tell you. All right, so the auto blade. The auto blade is in an STX machine, has no numbers on it. It's auto. It means that it determines the depth of the paper, the thickness of the paper, and it determines the pressure and blade depth it needs to cut based on the thickness of the paper. However, if you're using a CM model, which some of you are, some of you don't need to upgrade, by the way. If you have a CM model and it works, don't worry about upgrading. But if you're using it, you're just going to use a blade depth of 3 for basic white cardstock and a blade depth of 5 for regular cardstock. So 3 and 5, remember that. I'm sorry, not 3. I'm sorry, 4 and 5. 4 and 5. You use 3 for designer series paper. This is blade depth 4 and blade depth 5. But for designer series paper, they're the only 3 things I pretty much cut for vinyl. Hold on, let me take my microphone off. Had to reach over. Okay, so let me put my microphone back on. For designer series paper, that's when you use a blade depth of 3. Blade depth of 3, blade depth of 4, blade depth of 5. All right, we're going to do some coloring with the Stampin' blends. And now and then I'm going to show you my projects. And in another tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make really cool card backgrounds using some decorative mess. But that's in my Ink It Up series. I have an Ink It Up series if you're new to my channel. If you wanted to know what is your channel about, if someone said, what is your channel about? I would say my channel is about paper crafting, and I feature Stampin' Up products and the ScanNCut. And so I have kind of like 3 main things that I do in my channel. One is ScanNCut tutorials, okay? One is Ink It Up tutorials where I teach you stamping techniques and coloring techniques. And one is Paper Pumpkin tutorials where I share lots of, or kits, I would say kit tutorials, where I share lots of different things you can do with your kits that you get, and all kinds of alternative projects to make with your kits. So that's kind of what my channel's about, but I also do whatever floats my boat, and whatever floats your boat. I answer questions sometimes, I just will wing it sometimes, and I do a lot of product sharing. Like when I went to Hawaii, I did loads of videos where I shared how to use other people's cards they made with Stampin' Up projects. See, these are the blends I use for this project. Okay, I didn't use them all, but I mean, like I didn't use the dark misty moonlight, but I'll tell you the colors as I go along because I don't want to overwhelm you with this many. You don't need this many blends colors. It was just me experimenting. So for skin tones, we have what's called a pack of, I would say they're kind of like skin tone markers, and they would be ivory and bronze. So if you want to make her light skin, you use ivory. But then I added some little pink to it. These are both ivory. So this is my old ivory. And the reason I save it is I like it because it's lighter and it doesn't put out so much ink like this one. It's old, meaning I replaced it because my brush got messed up, right? This brush, but this side works great still. So I'm going to just show you with the ivory how I would color these first. I would just sort of, I don't need to do like the shading in the back. I'm just trying to color her face. And again, if you want a bronze one I'm going to use ivory with a sort of reddish brown hair. And a little bit of petal pink to make her skin a little bit more pink. But you can use bronze with black hair. I mean, you can make all kinds of different mermaids. I think this kind of looks like a hula mermaid. She looks like she's doing the hula dance. So what I'm doing is if your ivory is much darker than this, it's because save your old blends. Because sometimes you want them to be lighter. This is like a faded out blend. If you get ivory and it's a lot darker than this, and you don't see the color I'm seeing, well, that's because then you would want to use what's called a color lifter. So if your ivory is too dark or your bronze is too dark, you want to use a color lifter. This helps lift the color and make it lighter. So I thought that was a little like light and a little bit brown. So then I took my light petal pink. And again, I was just experimenting. And I took my light petal pink and I used my light petal pink to make her skin a little bit pinker. And that worked. But I have some suntanned mermaids. I'll show you my experiments. They all came out good. No matter what the mermaid, I mean, she's cute. You could actually, I think she'd be cute even if you didn't color her. But look at when you color stamped images, how they come to life. They really do. I mean, look at the difference between not adding petal pink. Here, let me bring that closer. And just using ivory. Look, I think that the petal pink works better. And I actually have other, you know, different other markers that I use, like to make combinations of skin tones. Like sometimes I use saffron, which is sort of a yellowish skin tone. And sometimes, I mean, it depends. Like sometimes I'm trying to do, like when I did these little elves a couple years ago, I was doing like a little diverse elves hanging from stockings, and I used all different skin tones, hair colors to make it diverse. And now, all right, where are we at with, let's say, good on time, because I always keep my tutorials, I always try to keep them under, you know, an hour, but more shooting for, you know, less than that. Give time for questions. And we are, okay, we said hello to Polly and Darlene and Yvonne already, but Vanessa, Paige, anyone craft. Hello, Vanessa. All right. She just came in. So what we're going to do now is something I've discovered, or not discovered, sort of, I want to say experimented with. Okay. This is going to be for the hair later. We need these 3 for the hair. I'm going to pull this off. I'm done with the skin tones. I didn't need all these. I was messing with the crumb cakes for a while, but I didn't need all them. What I discovered, and I don't need this. I don't need this one either. This is the dark misty moonlight. What I need is the light misty moonlight. Here, we'll leave the dark one there so you can see that I'm not using it. Okay. We need the light misty moonlight for this little effect I'm going to do. And we don't need the backgrounds anymore. We can just put these right here. So actually, no, it kind of makes it easy for you to see when I leave the background on. All right. I discovered it make little swirls with the fins that this worked out. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my light misty moonlight and I'm just kind of doing this little swirl thing like on the fins, and I'm going to swirl it. See, I'm just doing this. I'm coloring all the fins, and you got to get to the, when you use alcohol markers, it stays wet. So you got to get to this fast. For this little swirly effect to work, you got to get to it fast, meaning don't let this dry or it won't work. Hi, Melvina. How you doing? I'm glad you joined me too. So I'm taking I'm swirling with the dark, and I'm just leaving little bits of empty white space too. But I'm swirling, meaning mixing. So I took the dark misty moonlight. It doesn't look good, but when you see it, it doesn't look good now. It looks like a hot mess. But when you see it later, after it's all dry and it's kind of swirled, mushed together, it looks better. So that's what I did there. I took the dark pool party, and now I'm taking the light pool party, and I'm going to fill in any gaps. And now, because it's all wet, it'll all sort of meld and swirl together. And it kind of came out really cool. And then I did some Wink of Stella on it, and they look like fish scales. And I was like, all right. So that was experimentation, trying to figure out. I'm just using light pool party to fill in any gaps is all I'm doing. Very easy peasy to color these. Wait till you see how easy it is to color the flowers and the hair. That was the only little tricky part. We'll do it one more time for good measure. But you don't do 2 at once. Don't go, oh, I'm going to cheat and do 2 at once. You can with the hair where you're not blending it as much. But with these, you wanted it to be wet. Okay, we're going to do the tail, and then we'll do the other one. So for the tail, here it is. I'm using, again, the Misty Moonlight. So I'm doing every other stripe. I'm just coloring them straight in. That's all. I'm just doing it like that. Now, because these aren't really getting blended, I can go ahead and do the other tail at the same time. So you could do all the tails. But just, again, for the fins, her little fins, you want the scales to sort of get that swirly effect. So you don't want to color those all at once. You want to color them and then mix the Misty Moonlight with the pool party. So now I'm using dark pool party for the tail. And I'm using the thick side because I'm just covering it all over. I'm filling in the gaps and at the same time just coloring right over the Misty Moonlight to sort of blend it into to make sure I don't have any white gaps. See? So that's the tail. That tail's done. This tail will be done. And we don't need to even go back to the tail. It's done, except for the Wink of Stella that we add to it later. So why pool party? Why Misty Moonlight? Okay. Sometimes I let the designer series paper that I have in mind for a project, and I need to hit that with the color lifter. Sometimes I say, oh, I have designer series paper in mind that I'm going to use, and in this case I'm using Pattern Party. It's one of the host-only designer series papers, right? It has this really cool patterns in it. I'll just put one there so you can see it, and it's better for my camera to have some colorful things to focus on. All right. When I looked up the colors in this Pattern Party designer series paper, I said, which colors could I use for my project? And it had 2 blues were listed. Misty Moonlight and Pool Party were listed as some of the colors. I'm just going to keep on doing this as I talk. I'm using the light Misty Moonlight. Again, I'm doing the little swirlies on the fins first, just little blobs. This is very easy. I'm blending the light Misty Moonlight with the dark Pool Party. Anyway, so Misty Moonlight and Pool Party came out as a couple of the colors. They were listed as a couple of the blues in the paper. And then a couple of pinks were listed. There were 2 pinks listed. There was Flirty Flamingo pink listed, and there was a, I'm using, again, just swirling with the dark Pool Party. There was Flirty Flamingo and Petal Pink listed, and you saw how I used Petal Pink a little bit in the face. And then also one of the colors listed was Pale Papaya, which is a new ink color. Now I'm hitting it up with the light Pool Party and finishing it up with the light Pool Party, filling in all those gaps. This was experimentation. You should have seen the ones that didn't come out, or didn't come out the way I wanted, it should say. Now I'm just filling in all the gaps, because I wanted that swirly scale looking effect, you know, with the, and like I said, these look better when they dry. I think so. I need a new Pool Party. When your markers start squeaking, I've gone through 4 or 5 Pool Parties since they came out with blends, because this is the color I use the most, because I use it for snowmen, water scenes. If you're going to get blends, any 2 blends, the ones to start with their Pool Party. You can use it for snow, snowmen, mermaids. And of course you can use your markers. You don't need to have blends to color. Blends just make it so much easier to color. And any place where you color outside the lines. Okay, so as I'm coloring, it's going to make my next point on what I wanted to discuss with you. So one is, the one reason I don't color before I cut is not all stamped images cut out correctly. Remember, sometimes I have problems with alignment, like on this one, although it's still pretty darn good, right? They don't all cut out correctly. Sometimes the paper slips, things don't cut out correctly. So that's the first reason I don't color before I cut. I need to do erase on him. Another reason I don't color before I cut, it just kind of made my point for me, is when you color outside the lines, like I just did, and then you scan in a stamped image, it then starts scanning in what you colored outside the lines. So let me just grab this for just effect. So here I'm trying to color the mermaid's tail, right? And then I color outside the lines with my marker. There, I colored outside the line. Now, the ScanNCut goes like this, and it makes an outline distance like that. It scans in my mistake and makes an outline distance around my mistake. Okay, so that's the other reason I don't color before I cut. And the third reason is as you can see me do this, you can see why. I'm going to go ahead and do the hair now. For the hair, I'm using light cinnamon cider and light Cajun craze. Okay, light cinnamon cider and light Cajun craze at first, and then I'll color, and then I'll fill it in with some dark crumb cake. I'm giving her brown red hair. So the other reason is because when you're not sure, I'm just going to go and start with the cinnamon cider. When you're not sure about your projects, like say you want to coordinate, you want your colors to coordinate with whatever. I'm just coloring every other piece of hair, kind of loosely. Don't worry about staying in the lines, because this is just kind of like that. I'm using brown and then red highlights, and then I'm going to color the whole thing with some brown at the end. See how it's easy? See how easy peasy that is? I'm just using cinnamon cider first, because you try to use the darker color first. So now the third reason is, say you don't know what your project's going to be yet, like what's going to coordinate. You don't know what you're going to do yet. You don't know what designer series paper you're going to use for your cards. You don't know. You want to just cut out a bunch of mermaids and put them in your bucket of crafty goodness, and you want them to match perfectly later with whatever project that you're doing. Okay, so that's the other reason I don't color before I cut, because later you can decide, oh, what colors? Maybe I want to give her black hair. Maybe this mermaid's going to have different color skin. It depends on what I'm doing. I think I should use the thin side. There's a thin side and a thick side of each marker. I would say use the small side for this so you don't get messed up hair. So then you can decide later to use the colors that are going to coordinate best with your project or the idea of the theme you have in mind. So if you don't color them, you have lots of options. You get a bucket of them and you can make them match. You can at least make, okay, like maybe your hair is neutral. Hair is neutral colors. It doesn't matter. Skin tone's neutral. But the flower, that does matter. You want the flower, the leaves, and the little tail of the mermaid to match your project. Okay, see how I did highlights? But now it looks like she has some, it looks like has some white highlights. So what you do now is you take, so that was the cinnamon cider and Cajun craze. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take your dark crumb cake and just finish off the hair. Finish up the hair, blend it all together, and you got your hair done. See, I'm going to take the thick one and sort of blend it all together. In other words, just cover up the whole thing. Or most of it. You want to fill in any white gaps. So now she has brown hair with red highlights. And that took some experimentation, but that's the way I'm going to probably do all mine now. Because I like how her hair came out. I mean, all mine for this set of projects. Not all mine ever. Just for this set of projects that I'm working on. And I'm showing you maybe 3 or 4 of them that are done. And then I'm going to work on Mr. Pirate for the next round of videos where I show you how to make some really cool background. Okay, so here's the hair is done. No white gaps. Okay, and what we have left is just the flower. And I'm doing 2 at once because that's just more efficient, and I cut out 2. Now, if one of my mermaids wanted to cut out, when I do a tutorial, I try to always cut out 2 at the same time. And if one wanted to come out, I would just be coloring 1 right now. But because 2 came out perfectly, and because I like to be efficient, and even if I am on video, and maybe my hand was covering it for part of it. Maybe you didn't get a good angle. Maybe you just tuned in. So I like to color 2 of these. Okay, so that's the hair. It, of course, looks better as it... Let me focus here. Let me focus. It looks better as it dries. And you're going to get to see what one dried. But see how that swirlies are already swirling together? And let me tilt my camera a little better for the last part of my coloring now. Because all I have left is the flower. So, the flower and leaves. Now for that, again, color choices were made because of the project. So I'm going to use Flirty Flamingo for the flower in her hair. Because that goes with my designer series paper. And that's also what dictated my card backgrounds. The colors of ink I use for my backgrounds. To blend the flower, I'm just using the dark on the outside. Which is typically the way I blend whenever I have a solid area. I do dark on the outside, light on the inside, and the colors just blend together. And you could use the brush side or the thin side, but the brush side's okay when you're just trying to fill in big gaps. Okay, so that's good. Good. Flirty Flamingo. And lastly, Granny Apple Green. Why? Granny Apple Green was, I'm just using the dark Granny Apple Green. And then we'll finish off with the light on the leaves. Because it's one of the colors for my designer series paper. Again, one of the coordinating colors in Pattern Party. Pattern Party is something that only hosts can get. And to be a host, when I say host, it means that you have a workshop order. And to have a workshop order can be, you don't actually have to have a workshop. Your order just has to be $150. And then that's considered a workshop order. And then $150 order, you're going to get $15 in rewards. And the $15 in rewards, well, this paper's like $18, but I'm saying the $15 rewards can be used toward the paper. I think you can pay the difference, like the $3, I'm not sure. But I know you can pay some of the difference. But anyway, what I'm saying is, this is a host-only pack of paper. Wait till I show you this pack of paper. Do I have one? Hold on. Let me grab the paper. I had to remove my microphone to grab this paper. Okay, so this paper is humongous. It's 48 sheets in a pack. So it's $18, but you get 48 sheets in a pack. You get 4 of each sheet. You get this like amazing patterns. Can you see all the patterns? And it's double-sided. I can't take it all out right now, but on the other side is black and white. Okay. I'm not taking it out of the package, but I did use a couple of the pieces of Pattern Party. But right now we have a special going on that when you spend $250, you get an extra $25 in rewards. So if you spend $150, you get $15 in rewards. But if you spent $250. Instead of getting your normal $25 in rewards, you'd get actually an extra 25 in rewards, and you'd get $250 in, you'd get $25 in rewards like regular, and you'd get an extra 25, meaning you'd get $50 total. That's 20% is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say the 20. You get 20%. Okay, this is the final touch is your Wink of Stella. It helps wet this again and sort of blend these even better, and it makes your scale, it makes it glittery. Hope that's in focus. I can't touch it, the camera right now, to focus this, but I hope we're in focus. I should have autofocus turned on, but if not, I'm going to focus it at the end to show you this in a second. So there you go. So that's the whole project for you, from start to finish, how to cut, color, and layer. And now I'm ready to show you my final projects. And we'll go. So that was the Wink of Stella. I hope you got to see the Wink of Stella. The Wink of Stella is like, it really adds something to it. Oh, good. I'm glad I'm in focus. Good, because I'm trying to keep moving it, and it's like I'm probably making it worse. Her hair color is so pretty. I'm glad you like the red highlights, reddish highlights. I think that just kind of looks cool on a mermaid because it just like helps her shine. All right, so we have Melvina. Hello, Melvina. Kathy Schmidt says, hey, I'm glad I caught you live. That's because I'm an early bird today because I still have jet lag. I'm glad you caught me live. Okay, Nancy. Hello, Nancy. She said, I use my ScanNCut infrequently. Well, I hope you start using it for some more. And hello, DCHLP, done. Okay, yes. I'm glad you like my, Yvonne's saying she likes my suggestion of maybe cutting out so many of these at once. And that's good. And Jan and Barbara and Terry and all you guys are commenting. All right, so in any new stamp set, she says that she uses a 12 by 12. So Jeanette Howley's saying she does a whole 12 by 12 sheet of this, and so do I. All right, so before I show you my projects, I just got to talk about I got to finish off the concept of the pencil trick, which I told you about. So I do have an electronic eraser, but I mean, maybe, oops, microphone came off. Microphone came off. All right, well, I do have an electronic eraser. However, some of you guys don't, right? So let's just use this for now because we're not even, this video is just about you just used a regular pencil, and now you want to just take your pencil and get rid of those marks. Why? Because the artist didn't intend them. Actually, it wouldn't even matter if you left them on there, right? But the marks, I mean, the pencil marks that we use to help make this perfect, they don't hurt anything. And if you're coloring Mr. Pirate anyway, you're not even going to see the pencil marks, especially if you make his beard, like you give him like a red beard or something. I don't know. You wouldn't even see. You can't really give him a red beard because his beard's already black. But I'm saying if you colored it with another shade like brown or red, and then you wouldn't even see this anyway. However, I like to erase it because I like to go back to the way the artist intended. Once again, if you just tuned in, we're using Pirates and Mermaids by Stampin' Up. The concept artist. We have a great graphic artist team. They design, people review it. I mean, these are real artists, and they intended there to be gaps, so I want to erase it. So you go back to what the artist intended, and see those gaps are kind of cute, right? So that's what I like, is whimsical. So I erase those gaps. But if you don't have the time or you forgot, don't worry about it. Okay, so there's Mr. Pirate. He's done. All right, so now I got to thinking. The catalog came out, and inside it, before I even noticed this, I had already. I mean, maybe I did notice it subconsciously. I don't want to say you don't know what you notice in a catalog, right? Because it's kind of subconscious, right? Well, I had noticed these new masks that we have. And then in the catalog, they also did something with the mask, which I had not noticed because I had already noticed the mask in a different part of the catalog. So here's what they did, the concept artist. So Stampin' Up! Catalogs are pretty amazing. This Pirates and Mermaids are on page. Let's see. Got to look at the page number 58. It's $18. It's a stamp set. It's really good etched rubber. See, it's rubber and it's cling. It has good stickers. See, or here, you can't see. It's rubber. Rubber has a lot more detail, I think, than the photopolymer. Okay. So anyway, you can get that on my website. I didn't give you the direct link. You got to search Pirates or Mermaids, and you'll find you'll find it. But anyway, so this I was already coming up with this because in the back, I had seen these masks, right? And I was like, oh, these decorative masks in the supply section. And I was like, oh, that mermaid pattern will go with. Anyway, I'm going to show you how much these are because they're not that expensive. And I was like, this mermaid pattern is going to go with my mermaids, and also and when I saw this pattern party designer series paper, I thought, oh my gosh, that's going to go with it anyway. It's going to go with it too. Here we go. Okay, see the decorative mask on. That's number 6. It says basic. Here it is. Plenty of patterns, decorative mask. Page 128. 128. Okay, so that's what I'm using. I'm using this pattern paper, party paper, whatever, pattern party paper that I just told you about, and I'm using the decorative mask. So without further ado, and to try to keep within the last 4 minutes, so I can try to keep this in within an hour, I will show you my projects. Here we go. This is what you can do with what you just learned. If you're wondering, I always show my projects at the end of my videos, or I try to, unless it's an Ink It Up tutorial where I show you what you'll be making ahead of time. And so what I use for this is those, I get the tongue twisted here, tongue twisted. Plenty of patterns, decorative mask. Plenty of patterns, decorative mask. Okay, we'll put this one down for a second so I can show you. I'm going to do this next in my Ink It Up tutorial. I'm going to show you how to use this decorative mask with this shimmery embossing paste. I dyed it. I used shimmery white embossing paste with the glitter. I dyed it with Pool Party ink. I used my re-inker. So I'm going to show you how to do that next, but I got to show that in a separate tutorial because as you know, I don't want to get ink all over my ScanNCut, and I got to clear the table off for such a messy tutorial. But that's what that is, okay? There's the dimensionals. Remember I told you that you can layer but use dimensionals? You know, when you pop it up with some foam. And then in keeping with the color themes, I used some, we have these stickers that are available right now in our mini catalog. And this So Saffron's a neutral color, so it matches anything. This is like a So Saffron. This is Flirty Flamingo. This Seashell's Flirty Flamingo stickers. But I didn't use this sticker because this sticker was another color scheme. Seaside Spray. Right? So those are the seashell stickers. I didn't want to use the Seaside Spray because it's not the same color. It wouldn't go with this color of blue. But I used Misty Moonlight for stamping there, which is a very similar color. But that went with this designer series paper. And I used Pool Party, and I used Flirty Flamingo Shell because it went with the paper. All right, so that's about it. I used some, opal rounds. Opal rounds. And some Flirty Flamingo there. And, the basic borders dies. So this is that Pattern Party Designer Series paper and basic borders dies. And this is a Pale Papaya cardstock. Okay, for this one, I used that same decorative mask, but I used ink instead of the embossing paste. Hi, Bree. You just got here at the tail end, so you can go back and watch. These are the Genial Gems. These are the opal rounds. Okay, so that's what I use for that one. And this one is looks very similar to Pale Papaya, but not when you put them next to each other. This is Petal Pink. Okay, and for my final project that I use this technique for, we use a wobble spring. Okay, so wobble springs are great. I mean, if a mermaid is fun on its own, making it wobble is even better. I could do this all day long. Okay? Diane is saying, hi Diane, nice to see you. She's one of the paper chefs. She's like, I need a ScanNCut. Well, I know. Everybody sort of needs a ScanNCut. That's what I'm thinking too. Oh no, Jan's saying they stopped the paste ordering. I wonder why. I wonder why, Jan, that they stopped the paste ordering. But what this is a Love You Always treat box. This is in the mini catalog, a Love You Always treat box. I'm going to show you how to do this decorative masking in my next Ink It Up, which is probably right next as soon as I clear my table, because I have energy. I got to get some coffee though. Okay, so anyway, that's my mermaid on a wobble. Okay, so lastly, I'm done now, but I do want to say that I did use double oval punch. for making the mermaiding little thingies here. You are so mermaiding. Made with, I did stamp Misty Moonlight on them. Okay, so I stamped Misty Moonlight, basic white, right? Basic white cardstock, Misty Moonlight. And that would be the little double oval punch. And then, of course, you saw how I did the little mermaid. We just did the whole thing from start to finish. And I just want to mention I'm done. I keep saying I'm done, but you're like, are you really done? No, I need to mention all the products. So I definitely need to mention products. This is the Detailed Trio Punch. It's a very good corner rounder. And I used it for this card here, for the corner rounding of my background and that. And so a little teaser for my next tutorial is I'm going to show you how to make these card backgrounds using the decorative mask, right? And the embossing paste. And here's something you can do with that. So this is the card. We'll make something similar in my next tutorial where we're not using the ScanNCut. And here's another skin tone. See, she's much more yellow as I was experimenting, which is fine. But I'm going to try to do something like this for my next tutorial. You're going to make a card similar to this, but I sort of really made it up as I went along. So we're never going to get two cards that are exactly alike. And I have some pale papaya already cut, which is what I used for this. All right, that's all for now. This is the Papered Chef. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you want to buy any of the products I showed you, please use the link in the description of this video. And we'll be back for more shortly. Thank you all for watching. Have an amazing day.